Everybody, today is Friday, March 9th, 2018. This is MMAjunkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goz, that's Dan Tom. Danny is in New York, and I am going to step away for 1 second. Danny, tell us about your dumb show. All right, I'll be back.
My Dumb Show. We have a special Friday edition of My Dumb Show this week. Dan Tom?
Yeah?
So maybe after you finish all your errands that you said you had to run, maybe
Please don't share those errands. But yeah, share the other thing. Yes, go ahead.
But anyway, yeah, we have a special to make up for our snow day on Wednesday. We have a special edition of my show.
Okay.
Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is a little bonus. Not really a bonus. It's more of a makeup, but kind of a bonus at the same time because of the
I'm calling
weather?
it a snow makeup day. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Snow makeup day. It'll be the exact same show that would have been on Wednesday, except we may have a few more drinks because it's Friday.
Fair enough.
Coming up in a minute.
Sounds fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, the junkies have been great so far with participating in the chat room and kind of. And the first caller we got was Martin. He was a junkie.
Okay.
So yeah, so everybody's been really awesome with the show so far. So nice. I'm looking forward to tonight with everybody. We are coming up in 30 seconds, though. Dan, who do we have on today's show? Can you say it real quick?
From Louisville, right?
Mike Pyle, Tiki Ghosn, and Tad Seifert.
Yeah, so 3 guests on today's show. But we'll still have time to get to your calls. You can call us at 866-522-2846.
Nice,
We're coming up in 10.
Nice.
I know, right? Stand by. We're coming up.
You guys are aware of what happened to Johnny Benjamin, right? Yeah. The allegations.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goz. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goz.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMAjunkie Radio Show. It's the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goz. Our ace co-host to my left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom, back east, handling all the producing duties. Danny Otto, our special co-host for the day. Former WEC champ, now he's retired. Also former UFC veteran, Mike Pyle. What's up, Mike? How you doing?
What's going on, fellas? What's going on, everyone?
Look at you. You're pretty happy right now.
I'm
pretty
retired,
stoked,
man.
yeah. That's what
nothing
retirement's
to do.
like?
I am retired, yeah. Somewhat. It just gives you more shit to do around the house, though.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
It's been less than a week.
Yep.
Did anything change, really?
No.
No?
Nothing.
Okay.
I still have 2 arms, 2 legs. It's all the same.
You know, one question I don't plan on asking you today is there a chance? Something told me it was a 100% you walked away on Saturday, this past Saturday night.
100%. You know, money always talks, but I'm not that not on that level anymore. I don't belong in there anymore. The talent is just too thick and too far advanced for my old ass. So that's just the way it is.
I know that things didn't go your way on Saturday night, but did that matter? because you looked happy going in,
Mhm.
you looked fulfilled.
Mhm.
So it almost looked like the result didn't matter, honestly. No one wants to not walk out of there
Sure.
a winner. But you know what I mean?
Sure.
It's almost like your career already spoke for itself.
You're right. You said it. I'd hope to win. Of course, you always hope to win. You know, if you're playing checkers or if you're fighting, you want to win. I lost that night, but I didn't. Lost the fight, but I didn't win the war. I mean, I didn't lose the war.
Right.
You know, I've been around a long time. I got to be a part of this evolution of the sport, and it's been a great ride. I've met a lot of great people. I mean, I used to sit in your guys' living room at your house and do this show. Back in the day, way back.
With
in
a
the
little
day.
Jack Russell barking, disturbing the audio.
And now look how far everyone and everything has come from the sport, and I got to be a part of that.
Do you wish in any way that you had, like today you were Mike Pyle, who's 2-0, 3-0, just starting your career?
Oh,
or are
yeah.
you happy that you came along at the time where, I mean, you're not a Hoist Gracie Shamrock pioneer, but you are a pioneer of sorts. You're a pioneer of Vegas MMA.
Sure.
With Extreme Couture, you helping
Sure.
to put that gym together. You held a major belt in WEC, so you have that to be proud of.
Mhm.
You have UFC wins.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as we all know, the money in the sport is evolving and becoming different. But do you like where it's headed? And again, are you happy that you participated in this time, or would you rather be the young, like a 20-year-old right now, just getting ready to embark?
Well, I'll take the 20-year-old testosterone. I'll take that. There's a lot different way to approach now than it was for me when I was coming up. I really wasn't making any money. Now you can self-promote yourself by picking up your phone. And we got a little technical difficulty going on there.
We're good.
We're good.
And so I lost track. Where was I?
You would rather start right now.
Oh yeah. So there's so much better ways to market yourself and make money and make a career out of it, and the paychecks are better. So yeah, I would like to be in that era, this era, and come up with the toolage of some good coaches. I was self-taught, guys. I taught myself how to fight, and pursued it that way. And I wasn't even making any money. I was doing it because I loved the competition. I loved to go train and then pit myself against another person who is trained as well, and let's see who wins.
If this was some sort of a dream, a Twilight Zone, and a 20-year-old, make it a 21-year-old because it's a gaming area. A 21-year-old Mike Pyle walks in here, and you actually can have a conversation. Give me 3 things you would tell him. He's just starting his career out as well, and he's basically you.
I would say most definitely grow a mullet, without a doubt. Yeah. That's your first thing that you do is you start the mullet.
Okay, we better go 4 deep so we can give you that one.
Secondly, let's get you into a good gym and get you the right coaches. And thirdly, let's live that lifestyle of eating clean and constantly being ready to take a fight on a short notice, being ready, always being ready, because you have a short window in this game. I retired at 42. Not a lot of guys make it that far at the level of competition that I did. So with that being said, get in there, be your best, train smarter, and approach it very, very intelligently.
Okay, I don't want to be the question hog. I'll turn it over to the guys in just a second. But here's my last thing. So now I'm 21-year-old Mike Pyle. Okay, I think I found a good gym here at Extreme, or maybe I'm from somewhere else. It just so happens I lead a good, clean lifestyle. I'm committed to it. But I still haven't clicked as far as coachings. Everybody seems to be pretty sharp, But what do you think to find a good coach, and what do you think would be a good fit for me, since I'm very similar to you? I'm basically a younger version of you.
I'm kind of an old school cat. The social media thing. I hate to bust all your bubbles out there, coaches. I'm not speaking to all of you, but it's not about you, guys, coaches. Come on. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. You see a lot of coaches on the Instagram and this and that. I'm just old school. Maybe I'm just old school, but I know you got to promote yourself and things like that, but that gets on my nerves.
Okay.
You know, I would like a coach that if a camera kind of came over and got in my face and they wanted, and my coach was there, he'd be like, "Oh, let me scoot out of the way," instead of scoot on over and make sure that he is in the picture, in the frame, accidentally.
Doing this.
Oops, look at me. I'm on TV on accident. Didn't mean to do that. Just things like that. I guess I'm just old school. But some coaches, with that being said, some coaches that are dedicated to you and will take the time and make you a great fighter.
We take guys like Couture, Trigg, even Huron. You still see them in the gym.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them, it's years removed, others recently. Well, we kind of see you still doing the gym thing around, or is it a complete disconnect?
Oh, no. I'm a martial artist first and foremost. Secondly, I was a fighter. The martial arts is what got me into fighting. I was addicted to martial arts when I was a kid. I loved it. That was my life, and it turned into a job. I'll always be a martial artist. I can always be a better black belt in jiu-jitsu. I can every single day be better at that. You know, it's a never-ending progression. So I will always be in the gym.
Eating clean?
Always.
Really? Even now?
Yeah.
Like super clean, or like is there a different level?
I mean, I had some Girl Scout cookies last night.
Attaboy. That's what we're talking about.
Were you at the T-Mobile Arena? They were giving them away.
No.
Oh,
no.
okay.
I had all the girls. The girls. My neighbor's child is a Girl Scout, so I think they had a couple of little extra boxes left over. I love those things.
Cracked egg?
Yeah, I still go to cracked egg, but I still eat clean. Like I'll just do, an omelet or just
red
whatever.
meat.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. And pizza, a burger.
Oh yeah, occasionally here and there.
Like you're a weirdo or nothing like that.
No.
Okay.
No, I'll eat. But I just won't eat an entire pizza.
What about Las Vegas has been your home? More than likely because of just how good the training is out here. But now with no more fighting career, does that mean you go back to Tennessee or?
No, I'll never go back to Tennessee to live.
Yes.
I'll never go back to Tennessee to live. I'm pretty much here to stay. You know, I'm liking some of the private schools that I have my child in, and I don't want to disrupt that. It's
changed a lot too, though, right?
What's that?
It's changed a lot in the last couple of years.
It has. I live out on the
mountain's
edge, so those who don't know, that's on the west. That's kind of on the west side, so right in the bowl of Vegas, if you will. I'm kind of pushed right up against the mountains, so there's not a lot more room for development to happen. And I got here to you guys right here on the Strip, as some of you listeners might not know. We're right here on the Strip right now, so that took 15 minutes to get here. So I could, I like it.
We refer to it as the mean streets of Mountain's Edge.
Okay.
Because we like to have a little cred,
Of
too.
course,
We
the
live
mean
out there
streets,
as well.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Buffalo and Cactus over here.
Gomer and Fort Apache.
Okay, all right.
Oh, okay.
Any scorpions in your area?
No, I've never in my life. Since I've been out here, and I go out in the desert often with my son, and we go find treasure and da-da-da-da-da. I have yet to see a damn scorpion.
Have you ever gone in those caves up on?
Yeah, all the time.
Did you ever do it
on
with
Fort
Alex?
Apache? Oh yeah, don't ever do that with Schoenauer. Don't ever do shit like that with Schoenauer.
Season 1, Alex Schoenauer.
He will purposely make that live in hell for you.
I think it was him, but you warned me about that one time.
Yeah.
And
you did it anyway?
No, I didn't do it because you told me. But doesn't he throw snakes at people and stuff, or hide
Dude,
snakes in cars?
He's extreme. He's an extreme dude. He's had quite an adventurous life growing up. Whitewater rafting on class 3s and taking clients fly fishing on these rapids and setting up camp for them and doing the whole deal. He's a pretty extreme dude. If there was one guy that I would want on my side when we had to be out into the woods on some kind of zombie apocalypse, I'm talking about something that would really happen, right? Like a zombie apocalypse, I'd want that guy with me.
Yeah.
He'd be the one.
What about, I think about, the fly fishing that you do and all that. See what Bristol Morende did, right, with flipping houses?
I was just talking to him yesterday, actually.
Could you do something like that, but in the fly fishing world?
I could, but I mean, I could, but there is no access to any waters here. We're in the desert.
This is true.
I noticed you did talk more about being a stunt man is in the next phase rather than talk about the fly fishing. Is the fly fishing something you're doing less of, or
no? I mean,
or is the stunt work going to blow up, or?
Well, I'm not sure if I can talk about that season yet.
Fuck it.
I'm signed on to a show to work as stunt double for a lead actor.
Nice.
It's already done and set in stone.
Okay.
So we just got to IMDb Brad Pitt and see what he's got going on.
That will be
you hooked him up.
That'll be in April. So, and there's a couple of other stunt coordinators that I have befriended over the years that are offering some work here and there. So I'm leaning toward that. It's the fly fishing thing would be great if there was rivers here. Let's say we were in Colorado and there are all these rivers here. That would be great. I mean, yeah, I could, but that's a possibility.
Yeah. Can I name it if you ever do it?
What?
Pretty fly for a white guy.
Pretty fly for a white guy.
Like it?
He doesn't like it. Okay. Now, Trig and Haran do this as well. Are you kind of almost like in their same like network, or are you kind of working separately? Or
Jay and I are more close in the network than Trig and I. Jay and I know some of the same stunt coordinators that have got us work. Jay and I have worked together on Blacklist Redemption before, and we've been in a couple of scenes together on that show. So yeah, he and I. For the most part, Jay's been, since he's retired, he's gotten a lot of connections and networked with a lot of folks, and he always keeps an eye out for me and throws my name in the hat. And it's just I couldn't concentrate on those things. But now, now that it's all said and done, and I'm 100% retired, now it's time to focus on some of the film side of things.
Is there a name at all that in Mike Pyle's career escaped him? A guy that maybe not because you didn't like him or anything, just a matchup that you always kind of wanted to have?
No.
You got them all?
Good question. I don't know.
None of the 10 I asked were good though. Just Ghosn right now was
his was
stood
excellent.
out.
Yeah. His was actually excellent.
I set it up too.
Yeah.
I've asked like 15 and I didn't get a good question.
Yeah. That was a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question before. No, I don't. Never really.
He stumped you, huh?
Yeah. There was one that
I mean, like, how about just GSP?
Well, I mean, who didn't want to? You can't be like, oh, I wanted to fight the guy with the title. Of course you did, or you wouldn't be in the game.
Right.
Right? One skill set that I would like to have been matched up with and he got hurt, was Damian Maya. I was looking for that. I was looking toward that. Yeah. I was looking toward that challenge.
What about jiu-jitsu? Would you still do tournaments and stuff like that? Grappling?
Nah, you don't get paid, man. I've been getting paid to perform for so long now. Now it's time to continue to get paid.
Well, I think he means like the submission wrestling events that are happening where guys are getting paid. John Jones has done it. Jake Shields has done it.
Depends on what the paycheck is.
Okay.
You know what I mean? If we're talking $5,000, maybe. I don't know. Those. Not that that's minuscule amount of money just to go and grapple. It just depends. Yeah.
Right.
If the money was there, I would do it.
And as far as stunt work, is it 3 months away, or like you'll start next week? How soon is that? Like how soon do you need to separate the career that just ended with the new career?
Well,
I know that there's been some overlap, but now it's full time.
Well, I mean, I could get a text. It's kind of a different world for me. I can get a text right now if we were sitting here and say, hey, what do you think about Monday and Tuesday in Texas and work on Fear the Walking Dead? Yeah, okay. Send me your info. I'll make the ticket, and just like that. Couple days, come back home. No calls, no texts. A week go by. Hey, what about Tuesday? You want to come in and have a fight scene and shoot a couple of guys on whatever show? And it just kind of happens like that. Now, with my with what I have set up now, it's more I'm stunt doubling the lead actor, which is needed all the time, and it's a comic book It's a comic book show, so I'll be busy. So I'm dedicated to that until it's a wrap.
Man.
Can you turn to your right a little bit? I want to
No,
see your profile.
Not at all.
I'm trying to see who the hell you're stunt doubling.
You would never know. Listen, last season there's a show called Tick that I did last season where I stunt doubled the lead in that, the guy in a big blue suit.
Okay.
The Tick on Amazon.
I think Ghosn went. No disrespect. I don't think that Brad Pitt will work.
I'm way better looking than him, right?
Exactly. But I was thinking like there's a little bit of Chuck Norris in him, except he's a little older and Mike isn't. But that's what a stunt double does. But you have the beard going on right now, the accent a little bit. So I'm just trying to. It'll happen by the end of the show. Trust me, I'll have a good celebrity lookalike for Mike Pyle. You have one, Dan Tom?
I've had one like 10 minutes ago. I've been waiting and stewing over here. So if I can pleasantly interrupt y'all, hey, what's up, Mike? I don't know if you remember me from Extreme Couture back in the day. Taught me a lot, sir. Back with James Lanham and the amateur team, going dating way back. But thank you. Taught me a lot from Turtle that I'll never forget. I think I still have some scars on my knees from that. But I have on this screen, while you guys are hashing this out, here's what I've had on my screen for the last 10 minutes.
Ooh, not bad.
So now, like, from the competing days where, maybe whether it's a guy that you want to face or a guy that, you maybe that beat you always want them to do well, right? Now in the movies, it's like, do you just root for the guys that look like you to do well because he's going to up your chances to get some stunt work?
Well, I don't know that this is a new world for me, but I do know that Hollywood or film side of things, they could put you in a makeup chair and make all of you guys look the same. So if you have a certain height and a build, they can work with the rest. Let's just say.
What are you off season? Like 6'1", 200 maybe, or 6'2"?
6'1".
6'1"?
Okay. Yeah, 6'1".
200?
No,
you walk around?
No,
190? Okay.
Yeah, 190, yeah. So
he did not like that two number, did he?
No,
the camera adds 10 pounds, so that's how he did the calculation.
Yeah, so with that being said, if the actor had long hair and had a pudgy nose and I didn't, doesn't matter. They'll put a wig on
I got you.
whatever. As long as I'm meeting that height for the camera.
All right.
His nose is pretty intact, huh?
Renner's a kind of a short guy, so maybe that's not a good one.
Oh, is he?
He's in the Avengers coming up, so.
Yeah, well, like Arlovsky came in the other day. Well, we have a gentleman here that can test you there.
No test.
A neurologist, Dr. Tad Seifert will be on the show today.
You're close on the Guardians of the Galaxy. One of the actors. You're close.
Yeah? Okay, I think.
Wow. Okay.
Is Jake Gyllenhaal? He's not 6'1", 190.
So my Avengers was a strikeout then.
I think so.
No arrow shooting.
His is probably the best.
It's this. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100%, but it's the second season of the Tick because I'm doing it again. So yeah,
our producer.
There now. I'm fired.
The Tick was so funny. He said.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it.
I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
George, you don't know what the Tick is.
I don't know.
It's funny. It's
You're
funny.
You're starting to get ticked, aren't you?
I checked out the kids. I watched the cartoon as a kid, but I didn't watch the redone up version and stuff.
Yeah,
so
it's funny.
I got to check that out.
It was fun. It's good work, and when you're stunt doubling one of the lead characters.
Stunt doubling that guy.
Not this one. That's the old one.
That's
these are the new suits.
Yeah.
And the new
Pyle could do that
actors.
Guy. Huh.
So yeah.
Could Ghosn and I go to one of those caves?
Absolutely not.
Even though we're not. Okay, you have to be.
No, you could.
A seasoned veteran, or
no.
I've always looked at them and just said, should I park and walk up there and see what's up, or will I be the guy that's in the newspaper, a beginner tried to hike or explore an area he shouldn't have?
I'm pretty sure that those what you would call an in and an out, right? Where you walk. When you walk in, you turn around and walk the same way right back out. You don't have, you don't have.
Is it a complex caves in there? Is there a lot of them?
I didn't go that. I haven't went that far. I've only went a couple of times, and then.
But I thought you guys had to hook up like lines.
No, that was probably Drysdale. So if you ever have Robert Drysdale in here, sit him down, ask him about his terrifying trip with Alex Schonauer, and I'm pretty sure you'll be entertained.
Get to take a light, right?
Of course. I mean, yeah, you're just exploring, and then. I don't go that far in there because if shit hits the fan, you're stuck in a cave, and now what?
He's not the first person to say that about Schonauer, right? I mean,
Dennis
Davis, or I've heard a bunch of people talk about.
Oh, he's extreme. You have to watch him. He's a prankster, and it's all in good fun. But sometimes you could be bitten by a rattlesnake or something that he'd plan it for you.
Will you plan to watch MMA now that you're retired, or do you see yourself even as a fan maybe backing away? Like,
I'll watch, but I'm not gonna make a point, and I haven't over the last couple of years. It just it's not. I don't belong in there anymore, And with that being said, the drive and the obsession with it all has diminished over the past few years, and then that's why I made the decision. Let's get out. Get out now. There's no reason. The paychecks aren't big enough for me to stay in there and possibly risk any long-term damage or anything like that. It's not worth it anymore. The juice is not worth the squeeze anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
like if I tell you next week in London, it's UFC Fight Night, whatever, I think 127.
Mm-hmm.
Fabrice Verdum headlines versus Alexander Volkov. Is there a good chance you'd go, man, I don't know who Volkov is?
I have no idea who you're talking
about.
about.
Okay.
You could rattle off some of the hottest guys going on right now, and I would not even know.
Mm-hmm. So were you in any way bitter towards the sport because of it, or you just elected to be an athlete but not be a fan?
I think that 20 years into I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing it every day in the gym. I'm tired of talking about it. Every conversation is, and I was rolling and this and that. It's just fight. It's 20 years, every day's been a fight for me. I'm training for this guy. I'm training for that guy. I got to get over here and do some strength and condition. It was a job that lasted a very, very long time for me and is a very demanding job. It's very, very demanding on your body. And I'd had enough.
Yeah.
And sitting and watching fights all the time, and that's all I did for years and years and years. And that's cool. Let me try that at the gym, and I just become jaded to it, or I just numb. And that's when I knew I didn't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go ahead. I said to myself, well, I got to pull the plug because I didn't even know there was a UFC tonight. You know what I mean? It's I could tell that it's time.
Mm-hmm.
Not bitter. And to answer that question too, not bitter.
Okay.
I could kick my own self in the ass for dropping the ball here and there. But the sport is what it is. You sign a contract to go and fight for this amount. Okay, then what are you gonna do?
Yeah. All right, we gotta take a break. You're listening to MMAjunkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We have Mike Pyle in studio here with us, co-hosting, talking about his career that just finished up. Excuse me, this past weekend at UFC 222. He's a former WEC champion, former UFC veteran, and now he's moving into his next phase, working in Hollywood as a stuntman, along with guys like Jay Haran and Frank Trigg, who have been in our studio recently and talked about that. Sounds like you have some good paychecks coming and some good times to be had. Also on today's show will be Dr. Ted Seifert, neurologist out of Louisville, Kentucky, and we'll also talk to Tiki Ghosn, who is Rampage's manager. He got a Range Rover as a gift. I've never heard of that. Right? Yeah, that's pretty amazing. We'll talk to him when we come back. Stay close.
Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. You told me that code would get rid of them. Yeah, well, they're still here. Okay, but now they know I tried to kill them. Hold on, Mom. Here are George and Goes.
Just in time for conference basketball tournament, Sirius XM has 3 channels dedicated to the biggest conferences in college sports. SEC Radio is on channel 374, ACC Radio is on channel 371, and Pac-12 Radio is on channel 373. Check them out on your radio or on the Sirius XM app. Recently retired UFC veteran Mike Pyle, also a former WC champ, here in studio with us. His last fight was this past Saturday versus Zach Otto. That's it. He's calling it a career. There's no chance we're getting him back again unless a sheik is having this $1 million tournament where everyone's getting $1 million to show. I can't see Mike Pyle turning that one down. No. But barring something like that happening, it's it. It's a wrap. But it's been a great career, and we have a couple callers on the line.
Right on.
But I want to beat them to the punch, and I want to beat these guys to the punch on something.
Let's hear it.
I just want to say thank you for fighting for the sport, because I feel like we're in this pioneer stage, this young stage, where a lot of people, sacrifice their bodies, their lives, like you said, maybe a couple marbles. We don't know how everyone exits the sport. But thank you for allowing Goes and I to transition from Southern California to Vegas, and guys like yourself and Jay and Randy and Gray and Frank and everybody else that made it easier for us to start on our journey, if it wasn't for fighters like you, we wouldn't have fights to break down and predict and preview and recap. And, so you're one of many of thousands of fighters, and I don't know if we can get to them all, but I started thinking about it. I mean, wow, without you guys, seriously,
right on.
We don't have jobs. So just a big wholehearted thank you for your overall career and everything that you did to entertain us when you were fighting and when you gave us here, for us to do our jobs.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for always welcoming us.
No worries. Well. No worries. Not a problem.
Yeah, and I touched on mine a little bit between the break, but yeah, again, even the small stuff where Mike touched on coaching a bit, and I've seen him with my own eyes take good time out of his own day for scrub amateurs, whether it was guys like myself or other guys on the gym, always being very helpful, and that's just something that that's not there's no thank you in that, amongst the many other thankless things that fighters like Mike Pyle do. So thank you, man. Seriously, thank you.
My pleasure.
And just on the soft side, was there more smiling and laughter or tears after your fight? Like once it was done and you were in the locker room, or maybe just driving home because you are a Vegas-based fighter. How would you describe your emotions when it was all over?
It was a big dump. It was dump. It was I was up and down. Smiling 1 minute, sniffling the next. It was emotional. Yeah, some of the interviews I wasn't even able to do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was emotional.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's take these quick calls. We are reshuffling Tiki Ghosn just a few minutes back, so let's jump on the hotline now. Marco from Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Hello, Marco from Waco. ¿Qué pasa, vatos? And Mike Pyle.
¿Qué pasa?
I want to start by saying, rest in peace, Grandpa Julio. My mom's dad passed away 2 days ago at the rightful age of 98, man.
Sorry for your family's loss.
Sorry to hear that, Marco.
It's all right. It was a celebration. The guy lived a full life, man. At 98 years old, and you cannot beat the odds like that. And he was still lucid and everything, so good for him. Go rest in peace, buddy. Mike, what can I say? Thank you for all the memories, man. For being the fighter you were, win or loss, you always have an entertaining fight. When it comes to stunt work, I don't know what I always pictured you, like you're talking about movies, on a series like Game of Thrones, man, because of your body type, rough and tough, on a big battle axe or like a battle
I like that.
That would be perfect for you. Either that or Gladiator.
I concur.
That's all I have to say for today. Peace out, guys. Thank you.
All right.
On, thank you.
See you, Marco. One more. Dan from Oregon. What's up, Dan?
What up, Junkie Nation? What up, Mike Pyle?
What's up?
I mean, I could go on and thank you for everything, but I got some questions for you, man.
Shoot.
First off, you have got the craziest beginning to a career I think I've ever seen. Maybe Bibiano Fernandez is second to you, but you taking on Rampage Jackson in your very first fight and then beating John Fitch in your second fight, that's just unbelievable. I know it would be the beginning of all your careers, but it's just an unbelievable beginning, middle, end to everything you've done, Mike.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I came into the sport a little late. I think the first UFC I saw was Randy Couture versus Tim Sylvia.
Yep.
And I'm looking at your career here, man, and you were at the very first Affliction event. You got the Elite XC, Strikeforce, all of this. Like,
IFL.
I'm looking at this Affliction card, and this is like the best of the best at the time. What was it like to compete in stuff like this? If I could get you to talk about that. And then one more thing before I go, man. To me, you look like that guy from that newest Tarzan movie. His name was Eric. He was in the True Blood series, the tall blonde guy.
Yeah. He's actually about 6'3". I met him before. He's pretty tall. He's pretty tall.
Shit. Oh, shit. Yeah. Well, you're pretty close, man. You're pretty close.
How about Aaron Eckhart?
Mike, if you could go on to the Affliction days and just the early days, because I missed that shit. I love hearing stories, man.
Right
on. Back to you guys on that.
All right, see you, Dan.
Right on. So yeah, what he was saying that he wants to reminisce about a little bit about that. Well, you know, Randy's in the gym at the time training, so he's you know, kicking our asses on a daily whenever.
For Sylvia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we just talked about the other day. You were the lead corner for that fight.
Yep.
Okay.
I got the corner. I got to see that. What was super cool about that was just the things we were working in the back, that big overhand to get up there to try to get on that big tall guy's chin, and Randy probably was one of the best at executing a game plan that I had the pleasure to work with, and he went out there and did exactly what we all talked about and thought would be, you know, something that would work, and it worked. So that was great. The training was always great. Randy was a great mentor. We had Jay Haran in the gym, and we had Gray Maynard, Martin Campman, Brad Tavares hadn't came along quite yet, but that was kind of the mainstay. We had Joey Varner in there helping us as well, and we had Tyson Griffin. Let's not forget Tyson Griffin, which was probably one of the biggest handfuls to deal with as a 55-pound fighter when he and I would train. Super slick, great fighter. And then we also had Tompkins in there, and then the guys that come down from Canada and train with us, Sammy Stout, Hordesky. That's, you know, right around in that time also we began the Anacondas with the IFL, so I got the pleasure to train with Boss Rutten. Now that's one intense guy to have as your coach. If he told you you're strong enough and you're badass enough to go run right straight through that wall right now, you damn well try it. He could motivate you, and he made you feel like you were just invincible. So yeah, those were some of those what the rooms were like back then. And Jay and I, we've had some epic wars in there. Me and Campman. It was such a it was a very tough room. It was a super tough room when we first when we opened that place up, and we had people that would come from everywhere to come train with us, all over the states. They'd come in for a couple of weeks and really got to you know, test ourselves against other newcomers and see how we're developing in the gym. And yeah, it was great. There's some good days, and then get to walk out with Randy on a couple of big fights like that and corner and watch him win the belt. I think he was 43 or 4 or 5 or 6. I think he was 43 maybe when he captured that title, you know, whatever. You know, it was like, wow. That was some good times. I was in the corner for Forrest taking the title. You know,
from Rampage.
Yeah, and there's been some really epic times, you know, just not inside the cage, but outside, and the friends that I've made along the way. No enemies, none, zero, not one, not even one, because I killed him. But anyway.
Mike Pyle here, reminiscing with us. His career is done. He had his last fight this past Saturday at UFC 222, captured a world title, a veteran of 20 fights in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, and like our last caller stated, he fought at World Victory Road, in Japan, Affliction, Elite XC, Viking. It was a tournament of Viking fights. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah. I was a
and
champion there.
One last fun fact here. If you ever want to stump your friends and say, hey, what was Mike Pyle's first MMA fight? And they tell you Quinn Jackson, they're wrong. It was John Fitch, because he was NHB. That's old school. You know, before the unified rules came, he fought Quinn Rampage Jackson, and that was an NHB bout.
Some before that too, right?
They're all actually. Rampage wasn't my first fight. I've had about 5 fights before that.
Yeah.
Before I was Rampage.
Don't ruin my moment, all right? This is kind of like a little moment, a fun fact.
That's still true, though. That's still true. That is a good one. That is still true.
Yeah.
Good
All right, we got to take this break and come back with Tiki Ghosn, but we have Mike Pyle here co-hosting, and we're also going to talk to Dr. Tad Seifert, neurologist out of Louisville. We didn't plan this, Mike. We don't plan on checking your marbles. We know you exited safely, but he is here. It's to educate us. So stay close. It's going to be a fun show here to wrap up the week.
Charm, compassion, common sense. These guys have none of that. You listen to them, so you're no better. I am awesome, though. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The Jim Rome Show is now on SiriusXM weekdays at noon Eastern. Catch The Jungle and the rest of the CBS Sports Network on Channel 201 and on the SiriusXM app. All right, we're going to take a break for just a few minutes here from Mike Pyle, our co-host for the day. He's hanging out with us. He had his last fight this past Saturday, so we're celebrating his career. But right now, we're also going to talk to another guest of ours. His name is Tiki Ghosn, who has fought in WEC and the UFC. Also, you've seen him on many of the seasons of The Ultimate Fighter as a coach. He's also a gym owner in Huntington Beach, California. The guy's really done it all. And now he's an MMA manager. Apparently, he's pretty damn good at it. Yeah. He's being gifted a Range Rover by one of his guys there. I saw the video. I go, man, we got to talk to this guy. He's doing something right. What's up, Tiki? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good, man.
What's up, Mike Pyle?
What's happening, Tiki?
Congratulations, man.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
I'm hanging.
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries, man.
Congratulations to you too, Tiki.
What's going on, George?
What do you?
George, where the hell? I didn't even know you guys were alive.
I know. We've done a bad job of communicating over the years.
Yeah, you think? This is a little change. This is a change from going to a house in Santa Ana, sitting on the couch and shooting the shit. This is a little bit different.
It is, yeah. And Tiki told me that the other day, and immediately within 2 minutes, I sent him pictures of that first night when we had a show, and then later on we all went and partied in Newport.
Is that where we built that giant, where we took the ice bucket and
yeah.
poured all the vodka into the
and
bucket?
Dub Fire from Deep Dish was spinning.
That sounded like a bad idea.
Yeah, we built a giant straw.
It was a good time, man. Remember when Tiki had the
What'd
gym?
the straw look like?
The gym opening, and all the fighters were lined up. Kendall and Tito, and for Baroni was hitting mitts in the middle of the parking lot. Some good times back in the day, man. In SoCal.
Oh shit, that was the first. That was the first one.
Yeah.
Hey, at that club, whose idea was it to bring all the strippers and the bucket of ice and dildos?
Goes
George.
Hey, Tiki, man, we come across this this bit here on MMA Junkie where Rampage had given you a Range Rover for negotiating the best contract ever. So you're obviously doing something right. How long have you actually been in the role of a manager in mixed martial arts?
So on and off for, I don't know, the past 3 years, just helping out, different fighters here and there. Normally I'll manage the guys that I train, but obviously because of our relationship and our friendship, I've known Quentin for, 19 years now, 18 years. And, he's just one of those guys that's been in there forever. He's got an extremely big heart, and he's been taken advantage of by, everyone that he's ever worked with, as far as management and helping him out in his career. He's just kind of plagued with that, that just bad luck with choosing the wrong people. He's just a little too trusting. So, after I took him on about 2 years ago managing him, I was just like, look, man, I'll help you if you want me to do this. We gotta start from scratch. We gotta kind of like just change the way you've done everything. And, it's been for the better. He's doing great. He's training again. He's fighting again. And, it's just, I was at a loss for words when he did that for me. Like, that was above and beyond anything he had to do. But, he just showed his appreciation. That's how Quentin does things. And I'm super happy for it.
Right.
Obviously, he's very happy with where he's at in his fight career and what he's making. So, it's a win-win.
What do you think you were able to do in your contract negotiations that other managers he's had weren't able to do?
I just, I've been in this industry for quite a while, and I've kept very good contacts. I've got a good network, and one thing that I kind of pride myself on is I never burn a bridge, and I never, I'm not the type of person who's going to screw somebody over. And I think, when I'm talking to the different various promoters, talking to sponsors, I'm not negotiating from a statistical standpoint of, how normal people would do it. I've been there. I understand the game. I understand the perspective from the promoter. I understand the perspective from the fighter, and I'm able to reach a deal that works for everybody.
Good stuff.
I don't know, one of the things that I think I'm easy to work with.
Tiki Ghosn, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. All right, Goes, what do you have for Tiki?
Tiki, when we first started our show, Southern California was a hotbed for MMA. You had you guys with Team Punishment, you had the Gracie Academy, Hickson, and in LA, Alan Goez, a lot of gyms. Now everybody talks about the fight capital in Las Vegas and all that, but can you talk about what the scene is like now in Southern California with MMA? I know Rain closed down, but there's other gyms. Can you just kind of talk about the scene and how it's evolved?
I mean, there's a gym on every street corner from, what I understand, up until about, I'd say, 2 years ago. And then, 2 years ago, everybody realized that, owning an MMA gym is probably not the most glamorous thing there is. It was cool in the beginning, and, when you're making a lot of money, everybody wants to own a gym. But I've had one for 18 years, and it's a rough business. You know, you really have to know what you're doing. You really got to know what people are looking for, and you got to create that atmosphere, and you got to create a good training environment. And it's not always about just having clientele that are strictly fighters or clientele that are strictly consumers. You know, people that just want to come in and work out. You got to make it so that everybody feels comfortable there, and everybody wants to be a part of it, and everybody wants to stay there. And that's a place that fighters can go and train. They can be successful, and it's also a place that people can, you know, bring their family and, you know, go get a workout and maybe associate in the same place as a fighter and not necessarily have to get punched in the face. Because we all know that getting punched in the face is kind of like an acquired taste. It's either you like it or you don't. You know that you can find that out relatively quickly.
George, and both you and George went to the same high school.
That's right.
And George always talks about the mean streets of Santa Ana. Can you just maybe back him up a little bit on just how mean it can be in the mean streets of modern day high school?
Hey, Tiki, people don't believe us that modern day the school is so tough. We have our own obituary column in the school newspaper. People don't believe it when I say that.
They do.
Yeah.
Hey, there was multiple shootings and stabbings outside of the school when I was going there. So
exactly. And here's a fun fact about Tiki. You know how we just had the national championship team, according to USA Today, this past year? Tiki was on a national championship team. What was it, like 95, right, Tiki? You were on that team?
Yeah, 94, 95.
95. So we've done it quite a few times. That Range Rover, how long? Okay, so we see the video, but then it cuts off. But did you go through many stages of like, wait a minute, is this a joke? Or were you able to tell right then and there that bad boy was yours that Quentin gave you?
I thought it was a joke at first. And then he's like, "No, man, that's for you, bro." And I'm like, "Are you're kidding?" He goes, "No." I'm like, "This is mine." He goes, "This is yours. Bought and paid for. Here you go."
Damn, it's one of the coolest things I've seen. Yeah, very, very cool. All right,
that is by far the coolest thing that's ever been done for me in my life. So,
hey Tiki,
aside from my mother giving birth to me.
Yeah. Hey Tiki, another question, kind of in relation to management, but you know, for people that aren't aware, obviously, you know, you've been in the UFC, you've been on the big stages before, and we're all the way up to UFC 221 now. But you know, you start going back to you know, WEC or early WEC events or UFC events in the 40s, you'll see your name on there. Now, tell me, how much of that experience is seeing all the changes the sport's gone through since then? Has that really come in handy in the management role as far as negotiating what you want to see for the fighters?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you why. When you, like, let's say I'm talking to a fighter, or when I go to sign a fighter, having been there and done that is a huge tool and a huge advantage over anybody else trying to do this. Because from my experience out there, most of their managers have never stepped foot in the cage. So they can't really relate to, as much as they want to, they can't really relate to it. You can play other sports and be like, oh, I know what it's like to compete or be on the field or do whatever, but it's hard to trust somebody who's never got in there and done it, you know? So, yeah, to answer your question, that's a huge advantage. The other part of it is I've been there from the beginning and seen all the stages of it, and I kind of have my finger on the pulse of who's who and, you know, what a fighter's worth is.
Hey, Tiki, I got one for you. What about coaching? What have you seen improvements on as far as coaching? Have you seen rooms develop better coaches since our dawn, you and I?
Well, have I seen? Yeah, I mean, there's great coaches, and the great coaches that I've worked with, and the great coaches that I do work with, you know, it all comes down to doing these simple things very well,
and not be flashy.
There's no secret to it. Yeah, I mean, you can be flashy, but I mean, if you train to be flashy, you're going into it with a very short career. You know, it's being able to do the simple things, the easiest things, very well. You know, every good coach will make their athletes drill over and over and over and over again. You know, and I've been in rooms where you see coaches that are kind of, you know, insecure. They want to show off all these new tricks and, you know, oh, try this. This is going to work. This is going to make you flashy. But, I mean, in hindsight, is that flashy move going to make you that much more money, or is winning going to make you that much more money?
Tiki, I got to jump in there. Tiki, sorry, buddy. I got to jump in here. Yeah. We're up against the clock, but I'm glad we were able to get you in.
Sure.
We'll catch up another time, but hey, congrats on the Range Rover. Congrats on the new career, and great catching up with you. All right, bud? Folks, we'll be right back after this break.
I'm gonna have me some fun. It cost me my very life.
Alright, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMAjunkie Radio Show. Apologies again to fellow Monarch Tiki Ghosn for, exiting that way. I don't like to do it, but he was the one that needed an extra 10 minutes, so we kind of ran out of time. But, man, I'd love to catch up with him again. He seemed like he's really turned the page from the guy that we met, remember? Originally, when he was just a fighter and just always seemed to have like a little bit of a chip on his shoulder or whatever. Now you could tell he's handling himself like as a professional, managing MMA fighters. And if you haven't seen, he managed a contract so great for Quentin Jackson. Says it's the best one ever. Quentin gifted him a $100,000 Range Rover. So how cool is that?
I was thinking about it. It's pretty funny because Mike has done our show back when we used to do it in the living room, but Tiki used to do it when it was even more ghetto than that, and it was in the kitchen.
It was in the kitchen in Santa Ana. All right, so Mike, our co-host for the day, Mike Pyle, recently retired from the UFC. He's hanging out with us, and now I want to welcome our next guest, Dr. Tad Seifert, out of Louisville, Kentucky. Follow him on Twitter at NeuroDocTad. So that's NeuroDocTad. Welcome, Doctor. How you doing?
Thanks. It's great to be on. I'm a long-time listener. It's great to be here.
Thank you. All right. And once again, I'm rocking that Louisville pretty good.
That's pretty good. Just got to roll off the tongue. Louisville. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome, sir. And we plan to pick your brain here a little bit about your specialty, which is neurology, and how it blends with our sport, which is, I guess, these fighters that go in there and they put so much of their brain at risk, their neurological system. So as a fan, when you watch it, how are you able to separate Dr. Tad and Tad the fan, because they're giving you pleasure and entertainment, but at the same time, I'm sure you're watching and seeing things that you probably are concerned about.
No, it is. And I've been a long time combat sports fan. And I've been involved with Kentucky's Boxing Wrestling Commission now since 2013. And to be honest, I get a lot of grief from my fellow neurologists for being involved in combat sports.
Why is that?
Well, because the intention of boxing and to a lesser degree MMA is to concuss your opponent, to knock them out.
Yeah.
To win the fight, you knock out your opponent. And there are a number of medical societies that have recommended that these types of sports be banned. I am adamantly opposed to that. I think that there's a role for brain specialists like myself to be involved with fighters like Mike, to be healthcare advocates for fighters like Mike, to be there at cage side or ringside and to offer our own expertise. The sport is never going to be safe. But I think there are things we can do to make those sports safer, and I think that's where our role comes into play.
The same would be for these people that are opposed. What about football? Did that share that opinion for football and hockey and rugby, or is it just the combat sports?
No, it's across the spectrum. Obviously,
really, wow.
Combat sports get a majority of that grief, but as you trickle down to things like collision sports, like football, like rugby, there's a big underswell. In fact, the state of California right now has a bill that I believe is still in committee that wants to ban tackle football for those under age 14. And I have mixed feelings about that, but there's certainly an underswell of opponents to these types of sports.
So you've stated you're in support of, you enjoy watching them as a fan, but you're also in support that these sports can continue to flourish and grow.
Right.
And why is it? Is there science or studies that tell you that even though it can be detrimental to one's health, it's not as bad as it seems, or you feel like the sport can be can evolve into a way where a certain set of rules or equipment can make it safe?
No, I think there are things we can do to make it safer. And to backtrack a little bit, combat sports aren't going to go away. And that's been part of my argument all along, is that these are, when you look at the Mayweather-McGregor fight that got, 4.3 million, I believe, pay-per-views.
Yep.
These are sports that are not going to go away, whether we like it or not. So we might as well get involved and try to be proactive and try to be healthcare advocates for those involved. I can speak for the state of Kentucky, where I'm deeply involved in how we approach, for example, the high-risk fighter. The high-risk fighter, we consider those that are over age 35, that have lost more than 6 bouts in a row, that have fought more than 25 total fights in their career, that have had more than 350 rounds in their career, or those that have taken more than a 30-month layoff. And that, I think, is a prime example of the type of fighter where we can be involved, and they probably will require extensive testing. They'll probably require some sort of a scan at that point in their career, possibly even some neuropsychological testing. But there are things that we can do to help that fighter identify whether they're approaching that threshold of chronic traumatic, brain injury, and perhaps, counsel them on whether or not that's a time when they should start to step away from the sport.
The 30-month layoff is only because you would want a fresh set of testing. Exactly. Not because that was bad for them. I would think resting is good, right?
Rest is good, but we also want to make sure that over that 30-month time period, their skills have not diminished.
If a fighter like Mike walks into your office and goes, I'd like to get myself checked out before I take my next bout. So let's just say he wasn't retiring. What would you kind of battery test would you run him through?
Now with a fighter like Mike, and I believe you're over age 35.
I'm 42.
Yeah, 42 years old. So Mike, just at that age, he's taken some mileage from the number of fights that he's been involved in, presumably. There is no replacement for a solid bedside neurologic exam. Things where we can test cognition, things, ways that we can test balance, ways that we can test motor speed. And when you look at a fighter like Muhammad Ali, who came from Louisville, when you look at his later fights, his motor skills were clearly diminished. He was clearly slower than he was in his prime. And it's through a solid neurologic evaluation that you can detect things like that and perhaps suggest to that fighter, this is a point in your career, if you continue to go forward, you're causing irreparable damage.
Mm-hmm. One thing we learned from a doctor in Nevada, her name is Dr. Randa Basteron. She, when Goes and I would announce Tough Enough fights, she was part of the crew there, for the doctors that were there. We had her on the show one time, and she talked about vestibular balance.
Right.
And she says that it has to do with your peripheral, and when you become, I guess, more myopic and your peripheral closes, there's less chance of you seeing the punch that can take you out.
Right.
Which, when you see the punch, you clench your mouthpiece and you have a better chance of withstanding it.
Right.
Now, that was about 6-7 years ago. Do you subscribe to something like that?
Absolutely.
Every doctor I talk to seems to think differently, but
and it's called VOMS, VOMS, vestibular ocular movement, and there are specific ways that we can test eye movement to see. It's called smooth saccadic movement, which basically just means if I look left to right, my eyes should be moving smoothly. If you see any sort of hiccup or jump in the movement of the eyes, that's a sign of vestibular dysfunction, and you'll see that commonly in a fighter after they've taken a hard bout or after they've been knocked out. And often those vestibular abnormalities or those vestibular deficiencies can persist for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks after a fight. And you also bring up an important point about peripheral vision. Boxing, Olympic level boxing for males has recently banned headgear.
The headgear, yeah.
And that was one of the prime reasons why, is because with headgear you lose a bit of that peripheral vision. So those fighters are taking hits from their peripheral vision that they could otherwise have seen without headgear.
She also said you can improve your vestibular balance.
Right.
And we've seen Ali Aquinta. I seen him on the Countdown show. His dad has this machine where he's tapping buttons, and he's looking out of the corner.
King Mo does that too.
King Mo, yeah. So is that what she was? Is
yeah,
that what she was talking about?
It's called vestibular therapy. There's a type of specific vestibular training, usually that's administered by a physical therapist that's specialized in vestibular modalities. And there are a number of things that they can do to help with smooth visual pursuits, to help with those eye movements, but also to help with balance, to help with coordination, to help with motor speed. It's a specific type of therapy, but it is helpful.
Seems like no matter where we go in the world, even if a fighter suffered a KO, for some reason they're cleared. Do you believe that some of the doctors that are clearing just don't have enough knowledge, or us as fans and media, are we overdoing it in terms of the athlete's ability to recover soon?
I think we've gotten more conservative, and rightly so. And there have been instances of late where I have been publicly critical. I think there was an instance with the New York State Athletic Commission recently where they Bisping.
Okay.
Where my own point of view was that fighter was cleared too quickly. He was back in the ring, taking shots to the head 21 days after he had taken a significant beatdown by GSP, and then subsequently returned 21 days later and lost another fight via KO. I think those are examples of where ringside physicians and ringside medicine need to be more conservative, especially a fighter that age, 38 years old, who's been downed more times than anyone else in the history of the UFC. I think we have to take everything in context.
When it comes to mixed martial arts, and Mike, I know you can attest to this, there's been a lot of criticism along the way, but some of the highest criticism actually comes from boxers and from the boxing world. They say mixed martial arts, those guys are taking all these crazy blows, but really, I had to write a paper, I remember once in high school, and I had to research boxing. And the amount of deaths they would have per year was pretty high and very consistent. Can you kind of break that down a little bit, what the boxers go through, and you too, Mike, because I know you've been around that world too, what they go through in their training and the fight as compared to what a mixed martial arts does in their career?
Yeah, I can't speak to the training. Mike will have to do that, but there is good solid literature that suggests that boxers take more strikes to the head than mixed martial artists, because in the sport of MMA, not only are you taking hits to the head, but you're taking hits to the torso, and you are to boxing to a lesser degree, but you're taking hits throughout your body. In boxing, the primary site, the primary target is the head, and that's not the case in mixed martial arts. So just from that alone, I think the sport of boxing is slightly more dangerous on the scale of severity versus MMA.
Yeah, Tad hit it right on the nail. We have targets from head to toe, and we're focused on that a lot. And when we do have our bigger glove day, what we call a big glove day, we put our big gloves on, and we get about 3 or 4 rounds in, which the boxers, they'll box 7, 8 3-minute rounds, and they get after it pretty hard. Now, earlier days, I would get after it a little harder, but in the last 5, 6, 7 years, sparring has been reduced, a lot smarter approach, and then there's times that we have to train with our smaller gloves on too, so that the actual punches, they're not as hard, they're more mimicked than anything, and now you're putting the wrestling forward, and you're putting that amount of energy toward that rather than knocking each other's heads off.
Mike, for the longest time, George has always compared the growth of mixed martial arts to pro football, and he would say, we're kind of still in the leather helmet phase where we're still trying to figure things out. Have we graduated out of the leather helmet phase, and maybe we have the one face bar, or like, where do you think we're at?
Well, only thing I can speak about is, and what I'd like to speak on is protecting the fighters more, not so much as, oh, we'll pay for your surgery afterwards. We want to buy some house and land. We want something to have a little cushion. You know, I'm 20 years into the game. Could I do that? Almost, but I'm not where I should be. So no, I don't think we've got out of that leather helmet days. You know, you got your blue chips, if you will, and then the rest fall where they fall.
You talking about support coming when the career's over, like retirement pension?
There needs to be something for us. This is our job. This is our job. You know, this is our job, and we need something on the back end. And I would really like to see that take place before. We can't protect us any other way. The rules aren't going anywhere. We're going to punch each other in the face, and we're going to wear these small gloves, and that's not going to change. But what can change for the leather helmet days is to get some security for us afterwards.
When we were all growing up, I think we all wanted to be our dads at some point. Would you two guys ever be opposed to your children doing mixed martial arts or boxing or even football at this point?
You know, I have a son that's involved in mixed martial arts right now. So my answer to that is no. You know, I just really think that the key, and this is where the medical community has not necessarily done a good job, myself included. I include myself in this, where I think we could be more proactive in these fighters' careers rather than reactive, specifically in what kind of training they're doing, what kind of central nervous system training they're doing, things like vestibular therapy, things to enhance the central nervous system while they're in the midst of their career, rather than being reactive and just seeing them after they've been knocked out or after they've taken a hard loss, but being on the front end of that and being proactive rather than reactive. So, but to answer your question, my son has been involved in mixed martial arts, and I'm entirely supportive of that right now.
Mine, absolutely not. I would love for him to be a martial artist for the confidence of being able to just approach and have a conversation. It helps tremendously in anything and in life, but not as this game stands as it is now. I would definitely steer him away from that.
And I will say, for clarification's sake, he does not compete, and the decision on competition is going to come more from his mother than from me.
All right, so now I want to talk about the old days at Extreme Couture, which fighters have been public about, so I don't feel like I'm talking about something I'm not supposed to. Kimbo, Jacare, Vitor, Forrest, Vanderlei, Trigg, yourself, Haran, Stefan, even at times. You've all exchanged leather, you know what I mean? And I've named anywhere from a heavyweight to a welterweight, and let's throw in Tyson and Gray, you know. At some point in time, I mean, look, you can look back at these gym wars, and again, that's why I say leather helmet stages at times, because I that won't happen now, you know. Who finally said, hey, we may be doing this wrong at that gym, and that got you guys to change a little bit?
I remember driving home after sparring with Forrest, and I'm smaller and a little faster, so I'm getting frustrated, so he's got to slow me down, you know. We were getting after it. I was driving home, and I remember this day. I was driving on Tropicana. I was coming up on Jones, and I was lost. I said, where in the hell am I going? Wait a minute. What did I just do? What am I do? Where am I and where am I going? So I pulled over. I went into a Subway parking lot, and I go, oh, shit. Okay. Now I know where I'm at, and I know where I'm going. I was like, wow, I will not. And I remember we were going at it hard, and he was knocking me around a bit. But I remember from that day forward, I was like, that's not happening anymore. That can't happen anymore. I just totally lost track of why I was in my car and what the purpose of me being in my car was.
Do you feel like fight camps now compared to 10 years ago that the cumulative amount of sparring has gone down significantly?
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know, guys are not able to get to the fight safely. Something's, you know, twisted up because the sparring is just so hard, and it's just a fight every day. I changed. We started changing it up. Gray Maynard and I really started I kind of modeled after him a bit. He started slowing things down. Like, look, man, I'm going to start working with the 55ers. There's no reason for me to be sparring with you, Mike. No offense. I know we did our thing back in the day, but it just don't make any sense. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I'm going to stick 85 would be the highest I'd go with sparring partners. There's no reason to have. There's no reason. And sorry not to cut you off there, but the amount of contact, I changed from 2-3 times a week sparring to just once at 3 rounds with the bigger gloves on, and that's it. And then call it, and then drill afterwards. Drill.
And I think that's an example of the evolution of the sport, like you had referenced goes. Where clearly the way these fighters train are night and day different than what they were 10 years ago, and I think for the better.
We didn't know. Now you got guys like myself that are seeing if they'll listen, the 21-year-olds, hey man, when you fighting? Oh, I'm fighting in 3 weeks. Well, why don't you slow down a little bit, save some for the fight? You're letting out a lot of aggression. You're getting all amped up, and your guys are knocking each other's heads off. Why don't you kind of slow that down, chill out a little bit? Save that for the fight. Save your brains. There's no reason to be fighting that hard where, blood should be trickling out of your nose and just completely, you just left it all right there in that sparring round, and in 3 weeks you're competing.
It's funny because we had Pat Miletich on yesterday, and he's had a Hall of Fame fighting career.
A pioneer.
And he coached champions as well. We were saying, wow, if they ever just had that wing on coaches alone. But we heard a lot of things about Miletich and how hard they went. AKA's always bragged about the wars that they've had. King's MMA in Huntington Beach says Friday is like, I mean, they get after it, And I was reading an article on Renan Barral and how hard the guys at Novo União go,
Shoot box back in the day.
Shoot box back then. So I'm thinking, wow, like, I don't want to say they were a bunch of dummies for not. They just didn't know, right? Because these are some great leaders that have coached champions, and these are great champions we're talking about. But yet, how is it that at the same time, these gyms that went hard produced world champions? So there's something to it, but at the same time, their health was at risk.
The longevity
it's like
not there.
It's like the give and take. Was it worth it? Maybe for some it wasn't. So confusing because you feel like it's a formula, and it has worked, but at the same time, we're now going to have fighters like yourself and other. Forrest is retired. Stefan's retired. Stefan was on here about a week ago, and he was like, saying the sport, man, it
Yeah.
it also did a number on him, and God, it's kind of sad. Now we're gonna be able to get that data, collect that data, and just see what some of these repercussions might be.
The longevity of the fighters approaching it in a safer way, it'll be there, joint wise, neurologically. All that, I think that we just need more education, be educated more. You cut your teeth like that and you grow some balls like that. You get in there and mano, but limited. Keep things limited. Yeah, you do got to get your ass kicked. This is an ass kicking sport, and if you're not getting your ass kicked in the gym, you're definitely going to get your ass kicked in the live performance.
When they go back and look at statistics, what I think is going to be big that people don't really talk about was when the UFC switched all main events to 5 rounds, that extra mileage that people had to train for, fight for, and I'm not so sure that the money went up. It was just the day where they said, we're going to do this from now on.
I'll guarantee you that the money hasn't went up.
Think about Frankie Edgar and just how much more his career, how many more rounds he's had to do per year because of that. I think that hurt fighters.
I feel like this is what happened. What happened was we probably had about 10 fights in the last 20 years where the fights were so great through 15 minutes, we all turned and said, boy, I wish they could go another 2. Yeah. It's too bad this isn't a title fight. So, yeah, we have said it, and maybe the promotion reacted to it. But it pales in comparison to, again, like what you said, why are they doing it? If it's not a title fight, it's not really necessary. 15 minutes can settle who the #1 contender is. Brian Ortega and Frankie Edgar just did it. Now Ortega gets Max Holloway. So have been there times where we wanted more out of them? Yeah. But enough is enough. Kind of seems to be enough. I think they need to tail that back. Let's take this call from Muna in San Francisco. What's up, Muna? How you doing?
Hey, morning, gentlemen. I'll be quick. I got a meeting in a couple of minutes. But, hey, Mike, I just want to say congratulations on a great career. There's a couple of junkie gatherings where we had a chance to go to Extreme Couture, see you guys train, and definitely appreciate all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into the fight game. So thanks a lot for a great career, man.
I appreciate that.
Hey, no worries. Real quick, I don't know if you guys are aware, but ever since UFC 220, when they had 2 title fights with Cormier and Stipe, in terms of the men's division, we've got 8 men's division, 8 title holders, and there has not been a scheduled UFC championship fight with the current champion scheduled between that fight and Stipe and Cormier fighting at the UFC International pay-per-view later this year. So I think they're going to announce Romero, but in terms of current champions defending their belts, none of them have defended their belt between that stretch. And so I don't know if you guys were aware of that. I thought that was just kind of an interesting fact that Ben Folks brought up in his Thursday Q&A column. So
it is. Well, I know Demetrius, Tyron, both of them are hurt. And I think Dillashaw's waiting for Demetrius. Max is hurt, but we already know Ortega will be his opponent. And 55 is a mess because Connor is probably going to be stripped, and so now we're going to have 2 guys fighting for the undisputed there. And as I progressed through I guess Whitaker was injured. He's coming off injury, and then one champion's tied up with the other champion, light heavyweight and heavyweight. So, yeah, it is kind of a mess, but just goes to show maybe some good fight bookings are coming for the summer.
I can only hope so. Anyways, you guys have a great day, great show, and have a great weekend.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Muna.
All right, we got to take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. If you want to follow Muna, it's 866-522-2846. We got Dr. Tad Seifert from Louisville. He is a neurologist, and we're talking about fighter safety. And we also have retired fighter Mike Pyle, who just fought his last fight this past weekend at UFC 222. So stay close. We'll be right back. We'll talk more mixed martial arts.
George, and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Just in time for conference basketball tournaments, SiriusXM has 3 channels dedicated to the 3 biggest conferences in college sports. SEC Radio is on channel 374. ACC Radio is on channel 371. And Pac-12 Radio is on channel 373. Check them out on your radio or on the SiriusXM app. That same SiriusXM app houses the MMA Junkie Radio Show, commercial-free and in HD quality. Shout out to the USC Trojans who got a win last night in the Pac-12 tournament. They advanced tonight to play Oregon, who beat Utah. They were down like 11 and came back and won in the last second, so it should be a fun game. We saw Phil Knight there from Nike. Magic Johnson, was cool to see those guys there. So Gary Payton, yeah, the glove, went to Oregon State. So that was a really, really fun experience. Shout out to Sammy the Squid for that hookup. All right, Dr. Tad Seifert joining us here in studio from Louisville, Kentucky. And Mike Pyle, originally from Tennessee. I thought that we might have a rivalry. We might have to separate these two guys. But they're getting along great. So it's good to see. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the discussion that we were having. The movie Concussion, I'm sure you watched it, right?
Oh, yeah.
How soon do you think something like that can apply to our sport of mixed martial arts? What's it going to take, I guess? I'd hate to see our fighters sitting in, the opening scene that has... Have you seen that movie,
I
Mike?
have not, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a scene where Mike Webster, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, not the real guy, but he's sitting in his car and he's just, freaking out. He's suffering from CTE, and... So they show that scene. It's a very powerful scene.
Oh, yeah.
And you just know that, you read about some of the other fighters who have, gone so far as to take their own lives. Junior Seau, Dave Duerson. I don't want to see that for our sport. And I've seen there's a lot of parallels between WWE and mixed martial arts when it comes to sports entertainment. What I don't want to see is that rash of suicides that we had, in the 90s and early 2000s in WWE. I don't want to see that from our athletes. I feel like we can learn from our predecessors in other sports because I think a lot of things apply.
Yeah, and when you think about the movie Concussion, when you step back and really think about it, it wasn't about concussions; it was about CTE. And the NFL, to their credit, they've taken a lot of heat on how they handled things in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. But now they've been very, very proactive.
Yes.
I would suggest they have a new chief medical officer, Alan Sills, who's a very forward-thinking man. He's from Tennessee. He's a Vanderbilt neurosurgeon, just a stand-up, first-class guy. And the NFL has made many proactive changes here over the last couple of years with changes in where the kickoff line is and eliminating the wedge and really trying to hammer down a good solid concussion protocol that we undergo on anybody that's suspected of having sustained a head injury. And when you parallel that to combat sports, Mike and I were just talking about in the break, Las Vegas, the Cleveland Clinic here in Vegas, is the site of the largest prospective study on professional fighters. Dr. Charlie Bernick at the Cleveland Clinic, and I'm lucky enough to be a sub-investigator on that study. It's through studies like that where we're really going to learn what can be done in the realm of combat sports to try to make this every bit as safe as we can, knowing that the sport is not a safe sport.
Do you like the protocol when the fight's over? The doctors do come in, and I noticed they're looking at their eyes.
Right.
And then they go on to just check and make sure there's no breaks, and then the fighter continues the celebration, the presentation of the winner, somebody getting their hand raised, and then they go in the back. Are you aware of what's happening in the back when they take them in there, and is it enough? And not only then, is it enough then? When should be the next follow-up? A week? 3 weeks? A month? I can't believe that everything's determined just then and everyone's allowed to fly home and that's it. We'll talk to you the next time we offer you a contract or a bout agreement.
You bring up great points. There is an initial screen as soon as the fight's over, whether it's right there in the cage or right there at cage side. And then there's another evaluation that's typically performed in the locker room that's more of a comprehensive evaluation. It's at that point going forward where we have work to do because, we'll recommend you need to see your physician in a week, you need to see your physician in a month, whatever that time frame is. But we don't know if that truly happens. And that's where it's difficult being in combat sports where there's no unified federation, there's no governing body that provides the teeth that's needed to enforce those types of recommendations. So that's where I think combat sports fall short a little bit, is through the enforcement. Yeah.
Mike, you've been in the back when they check you out. Afterwards, is there follow-up for the athletes from the doctor, the UFC doctor, or any other doctors pertaining to the state or country you may have fought in?
UFC contacts you via email, let you know if you need anything. Here's this number. Here's this information. They give you all the information that you need, and then I think a couple of emails, a couple of weeks after, and then I'll get a text. Hey, everything okay? Need anything? Let us know if you need anything. We're here for you.
Knowing you guys are tough sons of bitches, should there be more from them?
Yes.
Because
from
you're pretty much always going to say, I'm all right.
Sure.
And when the bout agreement comes, that's when you're making money, so that's kind of hard to turn down. Could more come from them in terms of separating the times you perform?
I think that we should be examined every time before a competition and passed.
The incident you talked about, Jones and Tropicana, was that isolated, or have you had a few of those?
That was isolated. That was isolated because I nipped it in the bud. That was probably 7-8 years ago, maybe even more. So I really backed off.
That was a wake-up call.
That was a wake-up call. Yeah, I literally, honestly, had no idea why I was in my car. I knew who I was and all that, but I just didn't know what the purpose of being there was at the time.
Did you come back and share that with the team, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so that's when the talks started. Gray said, I don't want to train with you any longer, no disrespect. You mentioned you shared your story, and that's about the time where you guys scaled back the hard sparring.
Now, we would do, we'll wrestle and we'll grapple and we'll do the jits thing, but we're just not going to beat each other. We're just not going to spar. There's absolutely no reason for it.
Another problem when you think of the bigger picture, you have promotions like the UFC, which have really all the manpower they need. But I work a lot of lower level fight cards in Kentucky, where a fighter will come to me for their pre-fight physical, and I am literally the first physician that they have seen in probably 5, 6, 7 years. And when I evaluate that fighter again after the fight, and I recommend that you see a physician in a week, do you think that really is going to happen when they return to the hills of eastern Kentucky? Probably not. So it's challenges like that we face every single weekend with these lower level cards that are not under the UFC umbrella.
Okay, you also were sharing with us the work you do with the NFL. So we've seen that now if there's a fighter that got their bell rung or something. In the past, they say shake it off.
Right.
It's 40 seconds before the next play, or maybe sit out a play and then you're back in there. Now we see they go through a protocol. I think it's simple. They just call it concussion protocol.
Right.
On the sidelines, there's a tent. Can you talk a little bit about that? And is there something similar to that? I guess it can't really be done in a fight, because we know there are fighters that have been concussed in the middle of a fight, but the fight, they can still fight on fighter instincts. In fact, some of them have come back and even won.
Right.
So could that really even apply in our sport?
Yeah, when you think about what the NFL does, so essentially there are a number of individuals on the sideline, as well as the referee on the field, that can identify and pull a player from the game if there's any suspected sign or symptom of concussion. Sometimes it's even just after a big hit when there's no obvious signs displayed. So what we do is there's a probably you've watched the game of this last year. There's a blue medical tent. The player will go into the blue medical tent, and there'll be a very brief, concise neurologic evaluation that takes about 3 minutes, okay? And really all we're trying to accomplish during that 3 minutes is a go, no-go. Is this a player that's clearly concussed, or is this somebody that's good, everything looks great, there's nothing to worry about here, they can go out to the field? If something hits positive on that initial screen, then we will take them back to the locker room away from 70,000 fans and do a comprehensive neurologic screen at that point in time. Now, when you compare that to combat sports where there's a minute between rounds, I'll be frank, it's quite challenging. It's quite challenging. And I think as ringside physicians, perhaps we should be more proactive and be more have more of a presence in the corners between rounds. But it's a challenging scenario when it comes to combat sports.
That's what I was going to ask you about, the questions. The other day I got pulled over by a cop. I couldn't remember my address. And I know my address, but the situation had me a little fuzzed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
The type of questions that you would ask, can you kind of go over that?
Yeah, we'll ask things. What we don't ask are things like, what did you have for breakfast today? Because if somebody tells me they had sausage and eggs, I have no idea if that's true or not. Yeah, what we ask are...
That's pretty solid with us.
Yeah. Who are you playing? Who did you play last week? What was the score last week? Mm-hmm. What quarter are we in today? What's the score right now? Yeah, just basic things that test. What we're trying to test is short-term memory, because we know after head injury, long-term memory can remain very much intact. Somebody can tell you their phone number, their address, their social security number while they are acutely concussed. So what we're looking for are things within the realm of short-term memory. Yeah, and that's the same sort of thing that we're doing in a ringside evaluation, along with trying to do a very, very brief but concise neurologic exam.
You know what sucks about the difference between the two sports, though?
The pay.
That guy's a millionaire.
Oh, yeah.
This guy isn't.
Right.
That guy can play next week.
Right.
Unless it's the last game of the year. They can't fight for another 6 months.
Absolutely.
He's going to get a paycheck either way. He's only getting a show, not his win.
Right.
That's the part that I'm gutted for. I wish they had more show-up money. And I get what the promoter is trying to do to incentivize. But I believe... I'm seeing more salaries now come on the front.
Mm-hmm. What's the status now on the push for a fighter union? I know there have been rumblings about that.
There's 3 different outfits out there that are... 2 of them are trying to have a fighters association because it's not defined that they're employees. And if they're not employees, then they can't have a union. And there's another route that wants to define them as employees and then make them a union. So there's 3 out there. I think 2 of them have some legs. That being said, I still don't believe it's enough. It's going to be enough of a push like in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I think the individualities of all the fighters that are out there. First of all, we're talking about foreign fighters that don't even know about unions.
Right.
Different cultures where it's more about me rather than all of us. So I don't know, but collectively the fighters could have such a strong voice, but individually it's so difficult.
Absolutely,
because they can be shelled
your $1 million fighter a year. Just saying, it's not going to not get paid when the $10,000 guys are, calling for it. We all have to stand together, and
that's the challenge.
Yeah, when you're eating the big steak dinners and whatever, you don't want to revert.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a tough one.
Doc, CTE, from what I've read, you can't even what's the word? You can't even
identify it.
No, identify. But what's the word?
Diagnose
it until someone's passed away. But I heard that's changing.
Yeah,
am I correct there? CTE. Until somebody
I'm sorry.
Chronic traumatic
encephalopathy. Yeah. There's a group at North Shore University in Chicago led by Julian Bells, who was actually portrayed by Alec Baldwin in the movie. They seem to be on the trail of being able to identify CTE in living individuals using a specific marker on a specific type of CAT scan. And what that marker is looking for is the protein called tau. That's tau, T-A-U, because tau is the protein that seems to accumulate and cause the problems in CTE. So they think that they've found a CTE imaging modality that's able to mark those tau depositions in the brain and subsequently be able to identify those that have CTE prior to death. It's still in the investigational stage, but all the data coming out on it so far looks very promising. I think, like you said, we're probably 4 or 5 years away from anything on a union. I think we're probably still 4 or 5 years away from having something to be able to really take to prime time. Yeah.
Will that be something that can be cured controlled, reversed? What are the different levels of the studies that are being done towards CTE?
That's the million-dollar question, and the honest answer is I don't know. There just isn't enough science there to give you an honest answer. I think without question what we can do is, when that comes to pass and we're able to use those type of modalities, is identify somebody that at least potentially has it in the early stage, and we can counsel them at that point in time and say, you are at significant risk of this progressing further if you continue in a sport like you're involved with currently. It's those types of conversations that I think we're going to be having, at least initially.
All right, we got to take one more break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on SiriusXM Rush 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back. We'll continue the discussion here. We have Dr. Tad Seifert, neurologist, here in studio with us, as well as Mike Pyle, former UFC veteran who just recently retired from the sport after 22 years of fighting mixed martial arts and NHB. We'll be right back.
Hey, idiot! Yeah, you! Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
Commentator. Wait. No. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so, but I don't know who that is.
The Canadian. What's his damn name? You want to call the fights with Boss? Used to call the fights.
Oh, Mauro Ranallo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
This is the guy, we call him The Rock, or just Rock, right?
Mm-hmm,
he does all the reads for all the channels on SiriusXM. Speaking of reads, you can start your day with SiriusXM. Enable the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device and tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel, and you'll wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. See how Danny brought it slowly back?
Yeah.
All right, we're running out of time here, and Go says you have a fabulous story to tell, Mike Pyle, about a two-part?
Yeah.
I'll let him lead us into it.
There you go.
To make sure I get it right.
The very first time Mike Pyle ever did our show, it was when we were still broadcasting from home.
Right.
And I was always the first one up until he rings the doorbell. Well, I didn't know it was him at the time. And we had one of those gates. I opened the door, and I looked through the peephole, and there's this dude there with a hat, a gigantic beard, and sunglasses, and he's asking me for jumper cables, but he's got like the most wicked hillbilly accent I've ever heard in my life. I couldn't understand him, and I told him, I don't have any, I'm sorry, and I tried to get, I had stuff to do. Mike Pyle was showing up today. Closed the gate, rings the doorbell again. I can't remember what stupid thing he asked me the second time, and then he finally let me know it was him. Oh no, you went back to your car and you put it away. Then you came back, and I told the story of how weird my morning was, and I saw his laugh. I knew something was up. But then I didn't know that he's been doing this for a while. Can you tell some of the things you've done?
Yeah, so that character, I had a friend in from Kentucky, actually, Paducah, Kentucky, an old training partner of mine, and he wanted to go to the costume store for whatever reason, because he's a weirdo. He likes to get costumes and all this. So I went in there and I saw this big beard and this, that, and the other, and we started throwing around ideas of screwing with the guys at the gym. I was like, okay, I'll take this, and I got this old cowboy hat I could use for this, and I got a button-up shirt and all this, whatever. So it was this big beard. I think it was like a Jesus costume or whatever. So I just used the beard part, and it had long hair, at least 2 feet long beard. I mean, it was epic. And then I put on some aviator glasses. And then I just played that old country boy coming knocking the door. You got any jumper cables? And the look on his face, he's just like, I'm gonna call the cops.
I was getting scared. Can you tell the Randy?
But then and then after that we went to the gym, and I just strolled on in. I had my cowboy boots on and my I had the whole outfit on, and I just told him I went in and I was looking for Randy Coder. And I wanted to see Randy Coder right now, and I just breezed on past the front desk and just went on looking for him, I wanted to get my hands on him. Mm-hmm. And all the guys at the gym, they're looking, they're like, we think this could be Pyle. This could be Pyle. They started to catch on to me after a while, and yeah, it was funny. But I never found Randy. He wasn't there that day or whatever reason. But I had everybody going.
So it was going to be just like a mock gym challenge if you got that far, if Randy was there?
Oh, I would have I'd have hopefully had someone hold me back. I was going to go after him.
Right.
I was going to get after him, but they all know me. I'm always, doing something. Mm-hmm. So they started to catch on pretty quick that this country boy just might be a country boy named Pyle.
We are getting ready to close up here. Doc, is there anything you wanted to discuss? We have about 3 minutes before the end of the show here that we may not have touched on.
No, I mean it's been a pleasure to be here. Like I said, I've been a long time listener to you guys, so this is a big honor for me. I would just encourage neurologists, neurosurgeons, sports medicine physicians that are out there that are listening, get involved in combat sports. These are fighters that I have tremendous respect for, what they put their bodies through. They deserve to have healthcare advocates that are there with them through that journey. Because like I said, this isn't a safe sport, but there are things that we can do to make it safer. And I think that's where our role comes into play.
And what would you advise fighters that are listening?
Be proactive with your health. Go see a neurologist. Go get
How often?
I would get a baseline screen before, hopefully before you were ever to get licensed and start fighting. But if you haven't, go do that now. And then I think doing that on a every other year basis makes sense. Mm-hmm. Your central nervous system changes as trauma is induced to it over and over and over again. So being able to track how your central nervous system is responding to said trauma, is really going to be, give us that information as physicians to help guide you through your career safely.
Thank you so much for stopping by and educating us.
Thanks.
It's been a fun discussion.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome to come by anytime.
Thanks.
And we can continue because we have even more questions as the sport continues to evolve.
Sure.
Mike Pyle, again, what an honor to cover your career.
Thank you.
And for you to come in just 1 week after your last fight and just talk about the feelings over that and your career, it's been a blast.
Right on. Thank you.
Hopefully we can keep in touch throughout your stuntman career and everything else you
Absolutely.
do and have you back.
Right on.
All right.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you so much again for everything. I want to thank all of our guests for the week. Alex Hernandez, Hector Lombard, Jason Perlo, Valerie Letourneau, John Crouch, Paul Felder, George Gurgel, Pat Miltich, Mike Pyle, Tiki Ghosn, and Dr. Tad Seifert. On Monday we'll be back as we just start to discuss UFC London show that comes up with Fabricio Verdum and Alexander Volkov. We've already done our breakdown. That one's in the vault. You guys will get a kick out of that one. Our co-host for the day on Monday will be Joseph Duffy, UFC lightweight. He actually owns a win over Conor McGregor back in the Cage Warrior days. He'll be our guest co-host. Curtis Blades will also be on the show, as will Mike Swick. On Wednesday's show, just to give you guys a preview, Brandon Marino, UFC flyweight, will be our co-host here in studio. Also, we'll be off next Thursday and Friday as we observe March Madness. Look at us trying to pass it off as a holiday. Anyway, we're out of here, folks. Go Man U tomorrow, and the rest of you go out there and be champions.
And the one-arm band is crashing all those hopes down the drain.